Alright guys, I'm back again with more wrenches. Like I said in the last video, wrenches, and more wrenches. I'm sure you guys are tired of wrenches, but I just purchased these recently. Anytime I get a chance to buy a set of snap-on wrenches for 50 cents on the dollar or less, I usually jump on the opportunity. I do have a set of these wrenches in Tecton. I like them very much. I haven't had any issues with them or anything else. It's just when you get a chance to buy a set of wrenches for 50 cents on the dollar, you'd stand to, make your money back if you're not happy with them. So I figured I'd give these guys a try. These wrenches are right in the area, about $600. I purchased them for $300. So I think that was a pretty good deal. This particular set is a snap-on set, and it's the XFRM705 set. The particular number on the back of this is just going to signify the size of 8 and 10. You can see that they have a flex end on each end. And one of my biggest complaints with the snap-on ones is they're just so floppy. And they do have screws that you can tighten them up, but they always don't tighten up like super tight. So that's one of my complaints with them. Does that make it a bad wrench? No, there's ways around that. I mean, we get creative as mechanics and, put a screwdriver down there to hold this in place and manipulate it if we can't get our hands down there. We always find a way to make it work. So, I mean, that's not a downfall or anything like that. Sorry about that glare. But yeah, this is a real good quality wrench. They're extra long, double boxed. What makes this different from the XRMM? What was the number on here? XR or XFRMM 705 or XM. Can't remember now. XFRRM 705 is they don't have the little offset on here. They're not reversible. So these are non-reversible. That's the only difference, is one letter in the part number. And I believe it's the R. There's two R's in one and one R in the other. So this is their long pattern set, and it is non-reversible. But you can see there's a lot of meat around this guy right here. You're definitely not going to spread this out and break this. You may break the pin in here, but it's going to take a lot to do, especially with a 8mm and 10mm being that beefy. Nice stamping, very visible. Some of mine have actually put nail polish in those and actually wiped it off so I can see that, make it visible. We'll move on to the next wrench here. This is a 13 and a 15. I believe we skipped one there. You can see how smooth that is. It's based on their 88 tooth platform. Nice bolt stamping. Like I said, this is extremely thick. I mean, this is almost twice the thickness of most wrenches in this area right here. You can see the width of that, compared to my fingernail. That's a pretty beefy wrench. They're not playing around with these guys. So, really nice wrench. So you got a little silicone on this one here. Have to clean that up. This is our 12 and our 14. This is a real popular one for imports. Really smooth. Part number, size identification, branding, and size identification again. Like I said, you can see how large that is. That's extremely thick wrench right there compared to the head of it. You're not going to break that flex joint. Like I said, you may snap that pin in there, but you're not going to flex that open. You'd have to really be abusing this to do that. Here's our 16 and our 18. Just as smooth. Some are louder than others, probably because they haven't got used as much, or may have gotten brake clean down in them and kind of dried them out a little bit. But they're definitely no issues with them. They're definitely extremely smooth for what they are. Like I said, this makes them a little bit louder. Nice badging. Like I said, you have the number identification as far as size. 12 point, which is another reason that I bought these, is because some of the ones I have are spline. I'm not a big spline guy. 6-point fastener, I trust 6-point when I do a spline, just because I've seen some of the shallow bolts on flywheels and stuff on some of the Nissans and stuff strip out because there's not really enough to grab on, and there's always like a taper on the end of a ratchet usually. You see that tapered edge right there, and then you got a real shallow bolt you're trying to fit up in there on the spline, and this seems to really tear them up if you're putting a lot of leverage on it. And anybody that works on cars knows flywheel bolts can be excessive of 100 pounds, especially if you're doing any kind of torque yield bolts. Some might only be 50 or 60 pounds, but there's some of them I've done that have been close to 100 pounds, especially on flywheels, not flex plates. Flex plates are usually for automatic, and a flywheel is usually for a standard transmission. Usually they call for more. Usually the bolts are longer and they call for a little bit more torque on them, especially on the imports. I really like how thin these are right here. I'm not sure if this is going to hinder anything that's going to affect me doing my job. I really doubt it. I could be wrong. But I wanted to buy them, I wanted to try them out, and see if I like these more than I do my Tecton. Like I said, this would be an easy sell if I decided to get rid of them, especially for 50 cents on the dollar. One thing to know about this one, when I got it, it was actually, I believe it was a 17. It's an 18. So it must be the next one here. Yeah, this is our 17. You can see a little bit of rust down here on the 17. When I got this one was frozen up. I actually had to tap around here with a hammer and put some penetrating oil in there. And I believe it froze around the outside edge here. I must have got water in one of these or something. But you can see how thick that actually gets. I mean, that is a pretty good size bolster or shoulder or whatever you want to call it. I really don't think you're going to break these. Like I said, if you break these, you're probably going to be abusing them. The quality of these is just phenomenal, especially for a used set. Like I said, this 17 was actually froze up. I managed to get it loose. Sounds fine now. I think it was just cosmetical around the outside edge here. Kind of froze up. I noticed there's a little bit of surface rust on a few of these when I got them. You still see a little bit of it down in here, but there's a couple of dots on them, showing surface rust. But all in all, I think this was a good deal. For people that are saying Snap-on tools are too expensive, I agree with you 100%. But if you can buy used and you can buy 50 cents on the dollar, you're probably getting a good deal. That being said, I'm not a big Icon fan or anything like that. I do buy my share of Icon tools. Like I said, I bought a set of ratcheting wrenches, and eventually ended up breaking down buying a set of Snap-on ones. And the bad thing about a lot of these ratcheting wrenches, I don't know how long some of you have been wrenching, but when these ratchet wrenches first come out, Gear Wrench was the only one that was making these ratchet wrenches. So there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity for Snap-on, Matco, or anybody else, and other than you know, having them manufacture under their name or anything like that. So, you know, Mac and Matco seemed to come out with them first. Snap-on drug their feet. Even in the Blue Point name, they drug their feet. You know, as far as ratcheting wrenches, you couldn't get them in the Blue Point name. Finally, they came along and had the Blue Point ones, and then eventually they had Snap-on. So my first set of ratcheting wrenches were Matcos, and the only reason they were Matcos is because that was all that I could get for ratcheting wrenches, other than buying gear wrench. And I had a set of gear wrenches, and I didn't have any issues with them whatsoever. But they were not flip lever. Did not have a flip lever on them, and didn't have the 15-degree end on it. You know, so offset. So that was my deal for buying the Matco ones. Eventually, later on down the road, as I lost my Matco dealer, and I still have those wrenches and unable to actually warranty them, and the ones they have warranted just don't match the set anymore, I have bought Snap-on. So now when Snap-on warranties them, I get a matching wrench. I shouldn't say that, because they've even changed the designs on their wrenches. They almost look like they're rebuildable, but they are not, because there is no bolts on them to actually come loose or anything like that. And I believe they call it a destruction ratchet or something like that. The type of peening they use to stop the bolts, or the break off bolt that they use, so they cannot come apart. But if you look at the Snap-on ones, they have a plate on the back of them, and the earlier ones did not have that plate on them, or vice versa. I can't remember, but I'll have to bring them in and show you guys. But even theirs have changed in design. But the nice thing about it is you can get them at any time from Snap-on. For Matco, they're just so undependable. Dealers are undependable. Getting the same product is so undependable. So, I mean, that's one of my biggest things with these Snap-on wrenches when I buy them. And I know they're going to be around for another, 50 years or 100 years or whatever it is. Because in my last video, I've showed you wrenches that are probably 30 years old, and they're no different than the ones that they're putting out today, other than being a little thicker and maybe a different blend of metal, flank drive on the end. It's basically the same wrench. So that is the reason why I buy Snap-on. It's not always because it's made in the USA, and that is a plus. I mean, but Snap-on doesn't make all the tools in the US, so don't be sold on that either. I have tools that are actually, I shouldn't say tools, I have cordless tools that are actually made over in China, and they can play it's assembled global components here in the United States. It's still Chinese garbage that you're paying a fortune for, which is a shame, because Milwaukee and a few other ones are manufactured over China, and they don't have half the problems that the Snap-on do with their cordless stuff. But that's another story. But as far as the wrenches go, they're made here in the United States. The quality has been here for over 100 years, and that is my reason for buying them. I know when I take this wrench and go to warranty it in 5 years, 10 years, or whatever, I'm going to get the same wrench. There is some tools that they have discontinued, and I've had my actual Snap-on man actually give me money back, give me full credit for the last time that it was available. And it's been more money than what I actually purchased it for. So I have no complaints with Snap-on. I don't really have a beef with them other than pricing, but that's just part of inflation. But I'm going to get off here. Try not to rant no more, and just wanted to share these with you guys and the quality of them, and let you guys make your own opinions. Like I said, I've always been under the impression of buy what you want and buy what you need. Buy what makes you money. You can always replace it at a later date. That has always been my logic. But I'll let you guys make your own decisions, and we'll go from there. But you guys have a nice night. Give me a like, share, and subscribe, and we'll talk to you guys later. Like I said in all my other videos, if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability below. Like I said, have a good night.